Okay, so what we want to do right now is we want to be able to hook up our ESP32 to our cell phone, okay, and then be able to control a robot. And I've actually shelled out some software here, and you're going to want to start by downloading it. And I have put a copy of it. Brian's bought ESP32. It's in download for students. It's a zip file. And inside of it, it should have all of the sketches necessary to do some basic control. I don't actually drive a robot. You'll have to figure out how to do that. But I do give you the information necessary to be able to write that piece of code. So if we look at the code that I give you, you'll notice there's a lot of tabs up on top. We have the old original header information. So I didn't write this from scratch. I took a piece of code and I edited it, and so I want to make sure that the original authors get their credit where credit is due. So I put that in the old header information. You're going to put some new header information up for yourself. And also notice this. There's two other ones because we're going to be using the BLE, and the Bluetooth low energy is actually on a separate processor on this chip. So we're going to be running not only the core processor, the ESP32, but the Bluetooth processor. So we have to do a little special bit of coding. And again, I've taken care of most of the background stuff for you, but you still should address it. One of the most important, just for a class, is if you go to the BLE setup, you'll notice the very top lines here, there is the name for your robot. Make it unique, okay? I called mine Brian's Bot. This is because we're going to have a whole class of kids with BLEs and Bluetooths going. This is what you're going to be looking for to make sure you get your robot and not somebody else's, okay? So make sure that you've got a unique identifier up here so you know what to look for. The rest of this stuff is canned. There's really nothing to do about it. Leave it where it is. And then even this was in the loop, okay, original loop. It is all sort of canned. Leave it where it is. You can see that it's a function that I've called BLE loop and BLE setup. And if you go to my main sketch, you'll see those two calls happen here and here, okay? So those are the original pieces of code. I've just tried to make it a lot simpler with a lot less headroom so it becomes a little bit easier. So that being said, let's look at this code. Oddly enough, because again we're writing to a separate processor, we're really going to be talking about one very small section here. But let me jump up to the top. You'll notice that I have created some variables here, the build string variable, the output string variable, and the work string variable. I've also created a variable called steps. These variables here were all set by the BLE. Right? I did not create these, nor did I do any of this, nor did I do any of this. Okay? This stuff is all sort of pre-canned to make sure that the Bluetooth communicates. So, down here, look what happens. What it's doing is it's looking for a connection to the Bluetooth. And as soon as a connection is established, once there's an on-write command, what it's going to do is it's going to look at the length of the information being sent, and then it creates a loop to gather each of those pieces of information, each character, one by one, and it slowly builds the string. Okay, this is an array, and every time the array runs, it adds to the original string, so the string gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So for example, if you're controlling your robot and you type in a command of F100, that's going to be 4 positions. So it's going to go the first time, it's going to put an F here. The second time, it's going to put 1 here, then 2 more zeros, and then the loop is done. Then what I do is I take my build string, set it to my output string, and then I purge the build string to make sure that there's room for another command coming down the pipe. So now if we go to our loop, you'll see that the first thing it does is, of course, it calls the canned information. Then we move to this output string. If the output string is not equal to done, all right, it's going to set a work string equal to it. It's going to print it. By the way, you can comment this out when you get your robot going. And then it's going to go ahead and parse the string. So let's look at a parse. If it starts with the letter F in lowercase in the first position, it means that the robot should get forward. Then what it does is it actually removes the F. So if it was F100, for example, it's going to remove the F, and it's going to leave us with the 100. That is going to get converted into an integer, and it goes into the variable steps. Okay? So we now know it's forward, and we now have a distance in steps. Okay? So here is where you would call your forward steps command to make your robot go. Okay? You can figure that out. Then we set the output string to done so that we know that it doesn't have to do it over and over and over again, because now it is done, so it's going to skip this step until it gets a new string. Likewise, it does the same for, and I hate the fact these things pop up, it does it for what I said was R for right, L for left, and B for backwards. Okay, so you want to put your robot in reverse. Each and every time, it resets the string to done, and that means that it's going to be sure not to get stuck in a loop, and it's only going to work here. All right, so if I load this up, let's open up the app. Okay, now this works on both Androids and it works on iPhones. The app you want to use, oh, I suppose I should log in without you watching. Okay, again, it works on Androids and iPhones. Is this one here? It's got a picture of this fist. All right, you'll be able to download it. It's called Light Blue. Okay, by Punch Through. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to query the area for the Bluetooth signals. And of course, I have my Bluetooth right here, and you'll recall I called it Brian's bot. Okay, so if I connect to Brian's bot, it's now connected to this Bluetooth chip. I'm going to go down here to the very last line where it says write. I'm going to click it. Now this is annoying, and again, actually this is an Apple phenomenon. There's all kinds of cool things you can do with an Android, but I couldn't find, I don't have an Apple. I'm sure there's other ways to do this, but with this app, I know it works on an Apple. We have to go up here. It's expecting a hexadecimal. I'm going to change that hexadecimal to a string, and then hit save. Okay, and now I'm going to write a new string. So let's do I'll do a forward, an F for forward, and then I'll say 150, and then hit right. Okay, and what should happen, let me clear this out. Let's do it again. Oh, it timed out. Let me restart it. Let me pause this, and I'll be right back, and you'll see it go. Okay, it's working again. I had to reset it. So again, if I click this, and I can type in, for example, a right, and then I can put a number in for the distance, the number of steps I want to go, and hit right, you can see, well, lo and behold, I have a right 150, which was the value that I sent. That's the string that got converted. It says it knows to do right, and it knows to know how many steps. So steps is going to be your distance. And then inside of this, you can make a call to your function that makes your robot go. So hopefully this makes sense, and it'll get you started, and you'll now be able to drive your robot with Bluetooth. So I'll see you again soon.